Welcome back to my little $10 pocket knife battle series. Now, if you've been keeping up, you'll know that the Coast is in first place, a commanding lead, that is. Now, we have the Grand Way in second, and a close runner-up to the third place is the Schrade. Honorable mention to the Stanley over here. Now, if you've been looking at this lineup and wondering what's in this giant box, wonder no more. Today, we are looking at Amazon's answer to what they think a $10 pocket knife should look like. Amazon loved this knife so much, they put their stamp of approval on it, their name boldly emblazoned all over. Oh dear me. This is atrocious. I haven't even looked at the knife yet, but no. Oh my goodness. Okay. They're obviously not selling this oversized, ridiculous sheet. That's crazy. This is so cheap. This feels like paper. Let's take a look at the knife itself. Amazon Basics. Now, you have a real wood scale here. You can tell because it's in kind of rough shape. Ooh, there are some cracks. It has a, I wouldn't say handsome, but a stain on here. Kind of a very red, orangey tinge stain. Not my favorite look on the grips, scales here. Ooh. And this is a heavy knife. Gosh. This is just heavy. It's very forward heavy. This has got to be steel. Yeah, this is steel. So these giant bolsters here on the scale are steel. You can see it's running on some nylon bushings. Okay, I will say the action on this so far, I think, has been the smoothest. Yeah. So the swing out on it is not too bad. The deployment, lockup. It's got a tiny bit of play if you really torque down on it. Not too bad. The engagement is pushing towards the end of its lifespan, so you don't have a whole lot to work with there. Tanto style blade with the drop point. Not my favorite. I'm not super in love with Tanto blades for EDC purposes. They have a very strong point. They're excellent at piercing, but I just don't do that type of action with knives in general. I'm not going to be thrusting. I'm not going to be piercing. Stabbing is not really what I do with an EDC blade like this. So I like a belly, like a sweep. And Tantos, they kind of have this point here. And looking at the point, this one is not very well done. Maybe I'll pick that up. But just, it's immediately apparent that it is not centered on the grind here. I don't think I'll be able to get this to focus, but grind on this is pretty bad for the bevels. The primary bevels are just fine. Those are probably CNC'd. So before I start delving too deep into this, let's bring out the categories for our $10 knife battle. And it brings us to aesthetics and initial quality. And I gotta say, there's just something homely about this knife. It doesn't jive. It's not cohesive. It has this very traditional wood and steel handle construction with a modern Tanto blade. It just doesn't go together. It doesn't jive. I don't know. I find this very ugly. It fell down the old ugly tree and hit a few branches on the way down because it is not. It's kind of got a humpback, a very forward swept handle, which when you have a big sweep to the base of the handle here with no palm swell, what that does is it shoots the knife forward in your grip. This angle in relation to your wrist. I prefer for EDC a more acute angle, but that's neither. It's not, that I'm getting to nitpicky here in knife design, but It's just not my favorite looking knife. It is ugly to me. It looks like a cutlery corner, 99-cent store gas station knife that you'll see in that display at your local hardware store, your gas station. It's just ugly. It is. But the initial quality is okay. The lockup on it is fine. The deployment is pretty good. Oof. I'm tempted to give it a 5, but it offends me. It does. Its aesthetics are just too ugly in my opinion. I'm going to give this one a 4. On to category number 2, which is our factory edge. Now this edge is not very evenly ground, as I mentioned before. Let's see how it actually does in a sharpness test. So where it's uneven, it's not sharp. It is sharp down here. And then as it gets to this kind of apex in the Tanto sweep here, it is dull. And then this section is sharp. And then you get a little bit duller up here. Not very good. Not very good at all. You have some sections that I'm perfectly okay with, and other sections that need a good bit of love. I'm going to give this another 4 as well, just below average. Moving on quickly to the edge retention test. Remember, we do 3 slices through this cardboard. I'm going to vary where I cut. Let's get started. Number 1. I'm trying to keep it off the serrations here. When you use the tip of the Tanto, it just shoots the knife right back out. I want to get this section because it's nice and sharp. See how it handles cutting through this stuff. But when you use that, it just shoots your knife out. Again, I don't like Tanto knives. Let's get this third one done. Alright, there's 3. Edge retention came in between this one and this one, so hit that with a 3. On to ergonomics and hot spots. Now this knife has no big offenders. There's nothing about it that really screams out, this is going to give you a blister, this is poking you. Now it's a relatively comfortable grip, although I did talk about how I think this angle is way too far swept, biased towards the tip. I wish it were a little bit back, but then you have all this space here that just leaves it floating in your hand. So, besides that, and that's a very personal preference, there's nothing really bad about this knife. There's nothing really great either. It's very down the road. We'll give this a 6 for ergos and hot spots. I very much appreciate knives that can go from a relatively dull edge like this to a very good working edge with just a few ceramic rod swipes here. So let's do that. Good old hand strop. Yep. And we are back to where it was. It actually sharpened up nicer up here. Not too bad. Will it shave now? Yep. Not super well, but it absolutely took off a good section of hair there. Let's get a quick feel for how this knife responds to a diamond stone. This is a 400 grit. One thing that's nice about a lot of Tanto blades, this section is completely straight. So sharpening it is a breeze. This feels like soft steel, which will be good for some durability. But what's that, 3-4 passes? And I can just feel it removing material quite rapidly. All right, let's go to a higher grit. This is 600. Looks like a better edge already. Oh yeah. Very, very easy knife to sharpen. That is a well-deserved 9 for ease of sharpening. Easy flats, soft steel, took a great edge very quickly. On to durability, my favorite test. For the durability test on the knife, what I first do is I go like an angry beaver and I hit the juniper log 10 times. We'll see how the log holds up. And then to simulate a drop test, I'll drop it from about 3 feet 10 times onto the wooden bench. Let's get started. All right. Will the edge roll? I doubt it. It seems like pretty good steel. Let's see what happens here. You can see where that bit in nicely. The edge. Looking good. It's a little duller there now. But lock is just fine. You can see though, look at this. The lock bar is maxed out. So you have no more room to keep this lock tight. Eventually, this is going to be a rattle toy. So I went to go close the knife and this thing is stuck. Absolutely. Oh, there it goes. Okay. I was working on this, trying to get it to unlock. It was jammed, wedged in there hard. Oh, like that. You hear that click? Yikes. Oh. Oh, no bueno. No bueno. Okay. All right, let's go drop this thing a few times. First 2 times, we'll do a tip drop. 1, 2, and then on the base here, 1 and 2. This is an angry knife. All right, now we get to playing some Mumbly Peg. The goal is to get it to stick tip down from random parts of your body. Off the elbow, yes, 1. 5, right? 5. 6. Try that one again. Nope. 7. Alright. Over the shoulder. Oh, just a little too far. 8. There it is. 8. 9. All right, 9. One more. Gotta get this hat one here. There it is. And 10. Let's go see how that fared. It survived the beaver attack and a game of Mumbly Peg. How is it doing? Well, this lock is not long for this world. You flip it open. You can see, okay, it's not too bad. It's still where it was to begin with. But if you extend it just a little bit past that, it is maxed out. And right now, absolutely no wobble. It is tight. However, any more loosening to this action, if you played that a couple more times, it is going to lock and then it is going to rattle like this because you have no more room for adjustment. It is done. If you put this out really hard, see, it maxed it out. The detent is on the frame in there. So eventually, like with a lot of these cheaper knives, this is just going to be a rattle trap. The Amazon Basics and the Grand Weight both took the durability test the exact same. In both instances, the knife is perfectly fine. However, the locking bar isn't maxed out. So they both get a 5. On to deployment speed. Now, if you ever tried to use this, I think your deployment speed would be a lot less. However, no chance of that, so you are forced to use this pocket clip, which is not a bad thing. It is only the second knife in all of these to include a pocket clip, so thank you for that. And it is a tip-down pocket clip. It's not especially deep, especially in comparison to that knife, but it is just fine, perfectly adequate. You can open this and close it with one hand. So deployment for me is out of pocket, open, close, back in pocket. I think it's a very fair score on deployment speed. Right above average deployment speed gets a 7. On to carry comfort. Carry comfort on the Amazon Basics scores high for me. It's exactly how I like to carry a knife. Belt clip. Now, I would probably prefer a tip up. However, I have knives that are both orientation, and I don't have a big preference either way. It is a bit heavier, but they come a lot heavier than this knife. I think this one's right above 5 ounces. So it's not an absolute monster. It's just heavier than what I think it should be. And the balance of it is just fairly strange, being all right here. But it's got a nice pocket clip. It's not as deep as I'd like. We'll give this an 8. Pride of ownership is our next category. And I gotta say, look, I love Amazon. I do. They are a massive convenience out here living in the woods. So I appreciate what Amazon does. I like them. But I don't want to rep Amazon. I don't want an Amazon Basics hat. I would be proud to wear a hat that said Stanley or even Coast for that matter. Schrade, why not? Grand Weight, yeah, probably not. But Amazon Basics, I'm not going to want that on my knife. That doesn't invoke a real lust factor. I'm not in love with this knife. It's not something I want to sit down on the couch and play with. It doesn't make me happy. It's an ugly knife. It's heavier than it should be. Tantos aren't really my favorite for EDC. I like to have a belly. So it just doesn't check my boxes for pride of ownership. This is not one that makes me happy. I'm going to give it a 2. Lastly, we are down to value for my money. Now, this is not an expensive knife. None of these knives are expensive. And in my opinion, this Grand Way and this knife are equal in this category. They're both fine knives for the money. It's not like you're throwing away your $10. It's a knife. It will function as a knife. It's not very durable. Doesn't have great entry tension. It's not something that makes me happy, so we'll give it a 6. Drum roll, 54. 54, which is exactly where I'd place this knife. I would rather have this knife in my pocket than this one. It's more functional. However, of these 3, this one sits in last. There you have it, the Amazon Basics reviewed in the pocket knife battle. We got more to look at. I'm really curious to see how the cold steel knife does. We've got a couple other ones in here that I'm very interested in. A couple I'm less so interested in. I'm looking at you, Tac Force. But thank you guys for watching. It's been a lot of fun. If you'd like to buy this knife, I'll leave a link in the description below. If you have any suggestions for a knife you'd like to see reviewed, let me know in the comments below. Take care, guys. Until next time.